This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at the BatmanUniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show.
Hi, my name is Peter Tomasi.
Hi, this is James Tynion IV.
Hi, I'm Dan Jurgens.
Hey, I'm Dustin Wynn.
This is Jim Lee.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Mark Hamill speaking.
This is Kevin Conroy.
This is Tim Sale.
Hello, everyone. I'm Batman, and you're listening to my podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Batman Universe Comic Podcast, Season 12, Episode 1. There's a brand new year, and we're starting a brand new Batman run. We have a new co-host, so let's get started. This is Ian.
This is Steph.
And this is Theo.
All right, so since we do have a new host, let's get a few pieces of information so we can tell all our listeners who you are and what your relationship to Batman is, since this is the Batman universe. So, who are you?
Well, I'm Theo. On the Discord, I'm known as Admiral Wright. I have been with the Batman universe as a staff member for a few months, but I've been following the site for a few years, back when Ed and gang was hanging with Dustin with the comic podcast. Been collecting comics for quite a while, since I was 9. So comics is not new to me. Been a Batman fan, say, since Death in the Family.
Death in the Family. Tell us a bit more about that. How old were you when that came out? Well, like generally. You don't have to give us a specific year.
I can't remember. I want to say maybe, let me see. Death in the Family came out in early 90s. So I was right on the cusp of entering high school. That's part of my history. I try to wipe out simply because that was the most abuse that I've ever had from my grandmother. God bless her soul. But it was not without reason. I probably had about $50 worth of toll charges on the phone bill because I just couldn't stop calling and voting for Jason to die. And some I don't regret. My butt regret it, but but it was but it was that moment that Batman became the comic character for me. Before then I was dilly-dallying between Marvel and DC, and read a few Dark Horse comics as well. Dark Horse was really coming out with the Terminator comic books. But it was with Death in the Family that I really stuck to Batman as my comic character. Prior to 2005, I probably had all of the 400s, 80% of the 500s, and was moving on into the 6s and 7s, and then Hurricane Katrina hit and wiped out about 70% of my comic collection.
Oh man!
Since then, I've been slowly but surely adding back. I have pretty much all of the 400s back. I'm actually finishing up the 600s right now, since they seem to be more easily attainable and reasonable price-wise. And then I'll be getting back into the foray of getting the 500s and everything else. So that's my mini comic history.
Well, I personally find that extremely inspiring. I think that's great, except for the part where your grandmother tanned your hide for calling to kill Jason, and the part
Well,
where Hurricane
I was,
Katrina tanned your comics.
that was back in the day, where 976 calls and 1-900 numbers, was still fairly new, and not all kids understood what it meant.
Yeah.
Because back then we still had the jukebox channel. So, we were calling and ordering music to watch music videos. Yes, I'm that old. So, yeah, it really didn't hit me until she hit me. And,
well, and inflation means that like $50 is a lot more back then than it is now.
Oh, yes. Yes, and again, I was living with my 60-year-old grandmother who was living off of Social Security. So, I had to go groveling to Mom to get money to pay that phone bill because.
And I'm trying to remember, how much were comics back then? Like $1?
I want to say 75 cents, $1.
Man, so you could have bought 50 comics with that.
Yeah. I mean, if I would have got home on time, I probably would have pulled out my copies of Death in the Family just to reminisce. But yeah, they were not expensive at all. If anything, it might have been $1, maybe $1, but nothing more than that. Because again, I was on the cusp of high school, so just getting to the comic book shop that I was going to was a task because it was a few miles from home, and I didn't want to spend money getting on the bus. So I would walk those few miles each time to go and pick up my pull, and I never knew a pull until I actually started a pull. God, I'm old.
I don't think you're that much older than us.
Well, we're going to have one question that we're going to ask every host, and that is, what are you hoping for in 2020 for the Batman universe? That can be about Batman, it can be about any of the Bat family, it can be about movies or comics, but what are you hoping for this year?
I hope that if there is a reboot for Batman, which they've been kind of teasing, they might do it 100. Well, I guess that if are they going monthly on Batman? Or is that just Detective?
They've been soliciting it double, so not for another 4 months.
So we'll probably hit 100 this year. And
I think they're doing 100, I think they're doing double until they reach 100.
Are they? And then go to singles? But
yeah,
I just hope whatever they do isn't awful.
Yeah, I remember it was one of those interviews with King, and King was mentioning that they were probably doing double to 100 because they had something special planned for Batman.
Well,
although to be fair, they've changed their minds like 5 times since they said that.
So true.
So Theo, what are you looking forward to in 2020?
I am looking just for some uniformity in the Batman universe for 2020. For the past few years, we're reading, books with the same character that just seems so out of whack. We're trying to figure out, well, at what point in continuity is this? I'm thinking that we have some glimmer of hope coming with regards to some of the changes with the creators, particularly with Tynion coming on. So I'm just hoping that, at some point in 2020, there'll be some uniformity, not just with Batman and Detective, but to the other Bat books as well, since they all feed off of Tech and the main book.
That's great. I personally, my list is very short and it's very simple, and I'm hoping that Theo will troll me as he should. I want a Steph solo book, so... And no, I don't think it's likely, but that's what I want.
That's Tetch? For a Mad Hatter, he's kind of, hatless.
No hats. It's a condition of his parole.
Good thing he's not called the Mad Panther.
I want, since we're talking about... I want a cast book. I would love to see a cast book.
Yeah, I like her in Outsiders, but I think there's just so many characters. It's hard for her to get, her own development there.
True.
I personally, I've been pitching this one for years. I want Babs Steph and Cass all together, because I think 3 characters is enough for everyone to get time in the sun, but it also gives every Batgirl fan what they want, you know?
Yeah,
what if it was set at different times? Like, what if it was an anthology-ish type-ish book where you have, like, you know how they have the Batman of today and the Batman of tomorrow, like the Batgirl of today and tomorrow and yesterday, and then it was those 3. Would that be?
That'd be very interesting, although it'd be hard for me because I like them interacting. I like the relationship they have with each other. So that'd be my one hesitation with that.
Yeah, and if there was one thing I enjoyed, and you know, one of the things, you know, I know Internal was what brought Ian into the Batman universe, but Internal wasn't great for me. But if there was one thing that I really wanted out of Eternal, especially Eternal 1, was a book with the Robins, particularly Tim, Jason, and Damian. I mean, just looking at the relationships that those guys had, both in Volume 1 and then again in Volume 2, was just awesome. And I would love to have a Robins book, not We Are Robin.
We Are Robin wasn't terrible, but it wasn't what we wanted.
No, it wasn't. But
I mean, I am 100% with you. I'd love to see a Robin's book. I mean, I'm hoping that the issue in March we're getting Robin, the 100-page Super Spectacular, has some elements of that with the Robins interacting, not just stories about them by themselves.
I mean, because when you look at them when they're together, and it doesn't matter who writes them. I mean, you saw with King when he did the issues with when he and Selena went after Talia to get Holly back. And you saw that relationship with Damian and Dick just sitting on the steps, and how those two are just able to just get along more than any other member of the Bat family. It's just awesome. And, you know, I know it goes back to their days when Dick wore the cowl, but I mean, the relationship with those two guys is just spectacular.
I think one of my favorite panels in like all of history is when Dick comes back from Spiral and Damian just jumps in his arms because he's so excited to see his big brother.
And they both say, "You're alive." That issue brings me to tears every time. It was the first issue I got signed by Tom King.
Oh, that's cool.
All right, so let's get started on our reviews. We've got 2 books. We're going to be doing Batman number 86, and because Detective has gone monthly, we're actually doing Nightwing number 68 as well. So let's get started with Batman number 86. Written by James Tynion, drawn by Tony Daniel, colors by Tomu Mori. Outside a club in the Cauldron neighborhood of Gotham City, a doorman falls to the pavement poisoned with venom from the sea wasp, a unique type of jellyfish. As he dies, the assassin known as Cheshire walks past him, entering the club he was bouncing for. Inside, Cheshire greets Merlin and 2 other assassins named Gunsmith and Mr. Teeth. Across the city, Selena Kyle attends a wealthy socialite function at Tricorner Yards, running defense for Bruce Wayne. She communicates with Batman via a receiver. Selena is looking for something. While she admires a pearl necklace belonging to the mayor's wife, a suspicious man with a bow tie watches her from afar. Batman then checks in with Lucius Fox, who is at the new Wayne Enterprises Tricorner Yards campus sub-basement, creating a new vehicle called the Night Climber. Lucius shares his reservations about this vehicle's lack of testing, but Batman deploys it anyway. Across the street from the club in the Cauldron, Batman ruminates on a rooftop. Days ago, he was alerted to a dark web posting about a high-profile assassination in Gotham City. The highest-paid assassins were brought to Gotham with Deathstroke in charge. Batman has been preparing to take them out ever since. Once the Night Climber is in position, Batman uses it to assault the club. It distracts and traps Cheshire, Merlin, Mr. Teeth, and Gunsmith, while Batman takes on Deathstroke. As the two fight, Deathstroke tells Batman that Bane made a fool out of the Bat. Slade taunts Batman further, divulging how criminals think Batman's gone mad. Deathstroke then says that his group of assassins is simply a diversion from the real prize, but Batman is already aware. In Tricorner Yards, the mysterious man with the bow tie is about to push some sort of trigger. Selina Kyle, in her full Catwoman suit now, intervenes and demands an explanation. The man begins to die from the same venom the doorman was killed with earlier in the issue. As he dies, he reveals that he's enacting designs meant to replace Bruce Wayne's. A speaker erupts from the dead man's throat. The voice is reminiscent of the Joker's, or meant to appear that way, and it taunts Catwoman about this event being the first step of a perfect crime she once knew about. Bruce Wayne has a design for Gotham City, the voice says, but so do we. Batman has Lucius inform the GCPD to prepare 5 cells for the incoming assassins. He loads a defeated Deathstroke onto the Night Climber and takes flight, thinking of all the times he and Alfred would disagree about a day when Gotham wouldn't need Batman. In this moment, Bruce remembers that Alfred believed that Batman could create a Gotham where Batman didn't need to exist, and the limitations Bruce presented in that scenario were self-created. I think what's possible is only limited by what you believe is possible, Alfred said. Epilogue. Joker's henchmen in clown masks burn their fellow henchmen alive. They're following orders to make sure nobody talks, which means silencing hired help who know the greater workings of their employer's grand designs. As the carnival burns down, the last remaining henchman shoots his colleague before calling in to confirm that the deed is done. As he calls in, an explosion silences him too. So, first issue of a new run. Although this is far from the first issue of Batman that James Tynion has ever written. How do you think Tynion sets up this new run as the first part of a new story? What were your general reactions?
I really liked that he didn't just wipe the slate clean. Like, he's holding on to some things. Like, throughout the whole issue, you see Batman sort of struggling with Alfred not being there. And in fact, this whole new Gotham, whatever it is that Bruce is trying to set up, seems like it's coming from his love for Alfred. Like, this is something that Bruce has worked on for years and he never thought would work. And because Alfred would keep prompting him and keep believing in him, it seems like it's something that he's now doing in honor of Alfred. So I really liked the sort of carrying over of the emotions from the previous run. I love the use of Selina, that it seems like she was the one actually taking care of the big score, whatever, and he has trusted her to do that, which, Batman likes to be in control and not necessarily trust people unless he really trusts them. So I thought that was really cool that she's now officially part of the Bat family in the fold and has tasks to do. So I really liked the carryover. It's its own story. It's a new thing, but it's also taking what King set up and using it instead of just either ignoring it or pretending like it's not that important.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much more than what Steph said because I'm kind of the same opinion. But I really want to touch more, and piggyback more on the emotional aspect of it, especially, in those few pages where Bruce is calling out to Alfred, and he's constantly saying, Alfred, and Lucius finally comes on and says, Alfred's not here, and it really hits him, and he kind of plays it off and says, sorry, Lucius, but you could see in the writing and in the voice that Tynion gave Bruce throughout the issue that it really hit him again, that, oh, wow, this is real. The person who's been here for so long isn't here anymore. So, not much more than what Steph was saying with regards to how Tynion picked up this first issue. He kind of hinted at it, in the multiple interviews that he's given. But yeah, he in those few pages, he really hit us with some emotion in not just Bruce's words, but his reaction.
That's a really great point. One of the things I've always loved about Tynion is he does take time to slip those moments in where you really let things that, the reader feels also come through the characters. And it's always in character. It's not like he's just sort of putting in a moment. It's clearly something that makes sense for Bruce to be feeling now. So I also I think that this, I think you could probably label this a number one, but I also like that it's not, ignoring what came before. It's its own thing, but it respects what's come before. And I'm looking forward to how he respects what's going on over in Detective and in Batgirl and so forth. As Theo said, I think Tynion is very good at doing that kind of collaboration. So I think this is a great setup issue for those reasons, the emotion that Theo brought out and just the honoring what came before that Steph brought out. So, next question. What do you think of the revelation that Catwoman has a secret from her past involving the villain of this arc?
I don't think too much of it. I mean, it makes sense because she is from the villain world, so she's got a history and a view of things that Bruce doesn't, having been the hero. So I think it'll give her some knowledge and some extra input that she might not normally have. But I don't think she has much loyalty to the rogue community. I don't really see that as a loyalty as a trait that rogues have. So I don't imagine that there's going to be any conflict of interests or anything like that. It might be that she feels guilty about something and maybe holds on to the information just for that sake. Like she maybe doesn't want to appear, I don't know. She doesn't want to come off as evil or something. I don't know, but don't know where I was going with that. But basically she's just, she might play a bigger part than anticipated.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised that, again, just like Steph said, she's from the rogues community. You can't, just commit to Bruce and all of a sudden think your past is wiped clean. So
yeah,
the fact that someone from her past life is addressing her and she knows who this character is, shouldn't be too surprising. To kind of go along with what Steph was saying with regards to commitment, is it seems from the issue she does know who this person is. The question is now, will she immediately tell Bruce who this person is, or is this something that she's going to hold back out of fear of that past life or that past life coming back and Bruce learning something that he wasn't aware of?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. What I took away from this is that Tynion isn't going to treat Selina as the girlfriend. Tynion has a plot that involves her in a way that's not just, oh, she's the love interest, she's the sidekick. She has a past, she's made her own choices, and those choices have their own consequences. And I think that he said over and over again that this is going to be a Bruce Wayne story and the villains. But I think he's also going to give characters like Lucius and Selina their own choices, their own motivations that don't just involve Bruce. And I like that. I think that's good writing.
Yeah, and I think he definitely has to, considering the one person who would have taken up much of the story is no longer there, that being Alfred. So he has to, spread time and story to these other characters, particularly to Lucius and to Selina, especially if, the rumors of what we're going to be getting down the line with Batman is true.
Yeah, I'm a huge Luke Fox fan, and the rumors have been that he's going to become Batman for some kind of either event or initiative called 5G, standing for Fifth Generation. We haven't talked a lot about that on the podcast because it's really not been substantiated. Now, the rumors have been very consistent, but they also tend to come from the same people, so they could just be repeating themselves. I think that if they're going to do that kind of thing, they do need to build up Lucius and Luke as major characters, so it's not just, oh, here's this character who was important like 5 years ago, and now he's Batman. I think that wouldn't work. And I, as a fan of Luke Fox, I would want him to be built up. So if they're going to do that, I hope that Tynion gives Luke something to hear.
Well, to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, I also think that if these things are going to happen, it's not going to happen anytime soon, simply because, like you were saying, they need to build these characters up. And if the rumors are true that it's not just Batman who's going, Bruce Wayne who's going to be going away, that we're going to see changes with most of the characters we've grown up knowing, they're going to need time to develop all of these characters who are going to step in and fill the shoes for however long that they plan on doing it.
Agreed. And I hope that they do it well, because I don't have a problem with, legacy characters or a new character taking on an old role, but I want that character to have a backstory, a history, a reason for taking the role and not being their own hero. Yeah. Okay, last question. Both in issue number 85, the last issue of Tom King's run, and this issue, James Tynion has included like a 3-page epilogue featuring the Joker. Do these epilogues get you excited about what he's doing? Because this is clearly something that's going to happen much later in the arc. Or do they sort of seem like unnecessary?
Well, at this point, it almost seems like it's the what was the thing in Detective? The
backups.
Oh, gosh, what was his name? Mr. Ice? Dr. Freeze. Mr. Ice. The Dr. Freeze, where half the story almost was told in these backups, and then they launched into a forgettable, weird story. So I hope that it's actually building up to something big, and that it's just kind of warming the waters, warming our feet. I don't know what the right idiom is here, but just getting us ready for the big thing that's coming, either the big finale to the story or a whole new story. And then it's just giving us a little hors d'oeuvre before we get there. So at this point, I'm apprehensive, because I'm always apprehensive about the Joker, but I am enjoying them, and I'm glad they don't take up more space than they do.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy they don't take up too much space either. If there's really one thing that I appreciated about King's run, was you didn't have a lot of Joker. King showed that you could do Batman without having the Joker so entrenched in it. With the exception of jokes and riddles, and with the exception of the few issues leading up to the wedding, we didn't get much of the Joker in the Batman, book. And, so I'm okay with a story with the Joker coming out, because it seems like with just like with the Mr. Freeze epilogues that, they finally brought him to attention. I think it's okay to have a arc or two. I just hope that the Joker doesn't become too entrenched into Tynion's run. And I don't think he will, considering Tynion has said that this is going to be about villains with Bruce. So, having a Joker arc or two won't be bad for me as a fan, but I just hope we don't get too much of him. And knowing Tynion, I don't think we will. But I've enjoyed the epilogue so far.
Excellent. I kind of think that they're kind of just there because, as Steph says, they're sort of building to something and we don't know what yet. I'm hoping that when we come back after they all tie together, it'll read more. We'll see how the stepping stones lead to the main plot. I actually kind of wish they were more self-contained stories. I like a backup feature, but I know they probably would charge us an extra $1 if they made them a couple more pages. So I guess I'm okay with them not being too much longer.
It's not like they're going to start charging us more anyway. It's coming.
You're not wrong. I still maintain that the whole cardstock covers thing is trying to get us used to $5 comics, and I'm really not happy about it.
Oh, God.
Yum.
Okay, so let's get our ratings in.
I think this is a good start. It was solid art. I like, like I said, honoring what came before, but he's making it his own. But it is just the first issue of an arc, so 3.5.
The one thing that I just can't get out of my head, and I've cried about it on the Discord since the issue. It's just so tough getting this image of Selena with that bob out of my head.
Bobs are cute.
I don't know. And I'm typically a Tony Daniel fan, but I don't know. There was something with this Selena that just didn't sit right with me. So I'm gonna give it. It actually would have been a 4 for me simply because of the story itself. But since I can't get this image of Selena out of my head, I'm gonna go to 3.5.
I'm glad you mentioned that because it was such a vivid reaction when the issue first came out. I love that you included it. I'm also going to give it 3.5 because it doesn't wow me, but it does keep me interested and excited. Mm-hmm. So it's more, this is a good meat and potatoes, exciting Batman story. I love the characterization. It doesn't like make me weep or make me furious or it doesn't do something super unusual, but it's just very good. And so 3.5. Over on the site, Scott gave this a 4 out of 5, which gives the overall conglomerate, what do they call it? The mean of the reviews is 3.5 out of 5 stars. Let's move on to Nightwing number 68.
Well, if you're anything like me and you've given up quite a while ago on Nightwing, or if you're like a lot of people and you gave up after he got amnesia, I'm going to do my best attempt at a very quick summary of what's been going on so you can understand what happened in 68, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. So, Dick Grayson has been shot in the head and has amnesia. He can't remember anything after his parents' death. Though the Bat family, mainly Alfred and Barbara, attempt to reach out to him and try to convince him to return home, he rejects them. He doesn't know them, and he doesn't want anything to do with them, even going as far as setting his Nightwing lair on fire. He decides to be a cab driver and eventually starts dating a bar owner named B. Erstwhile, a Bloodhaven detective finds the remnants of the Nightwing lair fire. Almost everything in the lair was fireproof, so almost nothing has actually been destroyed. The detective, jaded by how corrupt the Bloodhaven justice system is, decides to round up 3 others, trustworthy friends, to don Dick's 4 different Nightwing costumes, and they become the Nightwings. Cab-driving Dick Grayson, or Rick as he prefers to be called, and who I have dubbed Uber Ric, since he drives a cab, has found that his crime-fighting muscle memory still kicks in, and after a while, unofficially, he joins the Nightwings as well, using grease paint over his eyes as his mask. Because that works. Year of the Villain starts, and we get the Talon storyline. Rick's great-grandfather, the Talon, William Cobb, has been spying to make sure that the new kid on the block is actually Dick. Right after he confirms it, he is visited by the ghost of Villain's present, Lex Luthor, who offers to deliver Rick to the influence of the Talons, a group of assassins that works for the Court of Owls. If you don't know who the Court of Owls is, too bad. Talon attacks Nightwing Blue, and leaves him for dead before visiting B's bar to get close to her. Due to rolling blackouts in the city, the power in the bar goes out and the looters attack. Cobb changes to his Talon persona and kills the looters and kidnaps B. Rick comes to rescue her, and Talon reveals who he is and what his plan is for Rick. Lex's symbol starts to shine in the sky. Rick and Talon fight until, with a Rick in a weakened state, Talon puts a pair of goggles on Rick's face that implant new memories of his life after the death of his parents. Memories of being raised by William Cobb and the Court of Owls to become an assassin. Apparently, the amnesia wasn't solely due to KJB's gunshot wound to his head, but also the court's memory manipulation, hypnosis, and drug therapy. In full Talon ensemble, Talon Rick attacks the Nightwings, but before he can kill them, a flying hero called Condor Red from the Global Surveillance Ops, who I don't know if I'm supposed to know who those people are, but there they are investigating the Lex Luthor symbol and appears and flies Talon Rick away to save the Nightwings. They fight, and though Condor has a fancy flying suit and laser weapons, Talon Rick gets the upper hand. At Talon's encouragement, he almost kills Condor, but the hapless hero pleads for his life, and Talon Rick spares his life and removes his Talon mask and smiles warmly. Now we are at Nightwing 68. Written by Dan Jurgens, art by Ronan Cliquet and Travis Moore. Rick is bombarded with memories of his life living at Wayne Manor and with being with the Titans, of being Robin, Nightwing, and Batman, of proposing to Barbara in a wheelchair. He remembers villains as well that wanted to kill him. It's all a blur, and he feels like he's suddenly 2 different people. The owls assure Talon that it's just a crack in the barrier that they created between Old Dick and Rick Talon. However, Rick sheds his Talon ensemble and grabs 2 sticks as weapons instead. Talon and Stick Rick have a fight at the top of the bridge. Rick wins and Talon falls to the water, declaring that Rick will join them someday. Rick and the Nightwings patch things up since Rick had tried to kill them. And Rick and Bee have a nice heart-to-heart. Rick confesses that he doesn't know who he is anymore because there are conflicting memories, some of which feel real and some which feel like wisps of smoke. Rick, or Dick, or Richard, or Nightwing doesn't know what he wants to be called anymore, but he makes out with Bee and they enjoy a lovely sunset together. The end.
All right. So, as Steph said, a lot of people have not been keeping up with this series. I myself just caught up with it last week, and I suggested adding it as our second title since we don't have a Detective Comics, because I was surprised at the enjoyable quality of the books. I was really not enjoying what was happening after Nightwing number 50, so I just stopped. But people told me this is worth checking out, so I did, and I wanted to share that with our listeners. Let me say first, this is still frustrating. I think that Dick Grayson should be Dick Grayson's, and Rick is stupid, and Uber Ric is really, really stupid. But if we have to get, yeah,
or Stickle Rick, as I am now going to call him,
if we have to get stuck with Dick with amnesia, aka Uber Ric, this is an enjoyable way to do it until he gets back. So, with that being said, let's get started with our discussion questions. The first is, some of these memories are pretty exciting and interesting. So we have Dick remembering that he proposed to Barbara back when she was in the wheelchair as Oracle. We also have Disco Wing, his 1980s and 90s outfit. And featured heavily is Dick as Batman. So what do you think about these specific memories being highlighted as true memories that the Court of Owls has been suppressing?
Well, and you also notice one of the memories of Wayne Manor is having dinner together. Like, that's something you would do with your family. Like, it's interesting that his memory of Alfred and Bruce isn't as Robin and Batman, even though you see that too. It's of them as a family unit. And so I think a lot of what it's are showing is his relationships with people. It's his relationship with Batman and with Bruce. His relationship with the Titans, with Barbara, you know, and then his role that he played in all those, Batman and Nightwing, and the history of Nightwing. So it's just, it is more emotional than maybe just showing him as Robin and being like, oh, that's how it used to be. It's like, no, this is showing his relationships with people. And this is one thing that frustrates me about the comics is I know Stan Lee's opinion, right, was every comic is someone's first comic. But the level of repetitiveness in this book, my name is Dick Grayson. I have amnesia. And let me introduce you to all my new friends. Every single issue. And he keeps repeating how he just doesn't care about the people from Gotham. You know, the old man and the redhead. I don't care anything about them. And in this issue, we finally see those memories, those bonds starting to form again. And that made me very happy.
Happy, but still very frustrated.
Hopeful. Maybe happy was too strong a word. Hopeful.
I am in the same boat as Ian. I dropped this book after the gunshot wound and after issue 50. And, you know, I caught up over the weekend reading it. And I actually read a few issues twice. And, yeah, the writing was better as you got closer to this issue. Mm-hmm. But it still wasn't anything to call home about. Like Steph was saying, the fact that, you know, half of the writing was just repetitive stuff from each issue. We know who you are, Uber Ric. Shut up. You know, it kind of makes me wonder what could have been had Percy not left the book.
I can tell you what would have happened if Percy hadn't left the book.
Well,
I asked him.
I kind of know what would have happened also. I don't think we would have been dealing with this headache. I don't think
No, he would
Uber
have
did.
restored Rick after one arc with the mind virus, and then he would have gotten Dick and Babs together in about 2 years.
I don't know about that far, but I would definitely
he specifically said that when I talked to him.
Oh, he did. Okay,
yes.
Yeah, I would definitely have loved for Percy to have stuck around. Dang it, Didio. But yeah, the issue got better. This issue was okay. The one thing that still gets to me now on the question of the memories, most definitely they're true. Knowing the Dick Grayson history, what kind of got me out of looking at the memories and really appreciate the memories as they were presented was just the art of it, the way they were drawn. I wasn't real crazy about it. But knowing now that they have planted the seeds of Uber Ric going away and Dick Grayson possibly coming back soon, makes me interested to see when it will happen. But the book still isn't there. It just isn't. I don't know what happened to the Dan Jurgens that we got with Action in Rebirth, but this Dan Jurgens and what he's doing with Nightwing just isn't. It's not great.
I think that's totally fair. I think my expectations were just so low that I just enjoyed it a lot more than I expected. A question about the art. Travis Moore does the first 4 and the last 4 pages, and then Ronan Cliquet does the middle ones. I know Theo's already commented a little bit, but what did you think of the art and the shifts and how the overall package was presented, Steph?
I'm scanning through it now. I'm terrible at noticing when there's a change in artist other than when it's just painfully obvious. He de-ages about 10 years between artists. I'm just looking at like the last scene with his grease paint on, and then oh no, I guess he still has the grease paint on, and then the sunset scene, like he looks about 15 there and then 35. But I don't know. It was fine. The art from the previous arcs, especially the fire monster arc, the art in that was so bad. I was just so happy that they looked like human beings who are.
But wasn't that Cliquet on that art as well?
Well, he might have been, but this was not as sucky as that. So maybe he got better. But yeah, it was fine. I agree with what Thea said though. Like the splash could have been beautiful. Like, I really feel like someone needs to make up for that. The last Dick issue we got in Batman that was just so awfully arted. But this kind of does, in that it's not as bad as that issue, but it's still not beautiful. It's just kind of cool. Like the what it's picturing is cool, and it's done well, but it's not beautiful, I guess.
And if you look at it, knowing that there's only 2 artists on this book, and the first artist, if Travis Moore did the first few pages and the last few pages, but if you look at them and you compare them, they really don't look the same either. So you could almost say that there were 3 artists. In this issue. I understand why you may have multiple artists when you want to go and, something like this, where something is looking in the past compared to the current time. But I'm just not a fan of it. And this very first page with Little Robin running around, and he has, leggings on, and instead of the original.
Because they're not brave enough to do the original print.
Yeah, and I knew why, but it's just like that's not the original Robin outfit. Come on, guys. Yeah, it it's just not. I will continue to read it because, again, knowing that we may be closer to getting Dick Grayson back is enough for me to want to hold on a little bit longer. But I just hope the story gets better. And like I said, it seems to have improved, especially since issue 50. And I know Ian said that as well. But it's still not there. And I'm hoping at some point Jurgens get it there.
Yeah, I think that's very fair.
How long has Jurgens been on the book?
Since like 54, 54, 55.
Yeah, because Lobdell replaced Percy, and he did an arc, and then that's when they may have had one more fill-in artist, but then Jurgens jumped on.
So that's been a long time, over a year.
Because when it first started, like, I know everyone was so jaded and mad that a lot of people jumped ship, but I actually enjoyed the first few issues, like as a completely disconnected story. But I can understand why people were angry.
But I mean, we're over a year and a half after that, and we're still doing that story.
We're still doing this. Yeah, no, I know. I'm not excusing it. I'm just looking for silver linings.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Keep reminding us.
So that brings us to our next question. It's actually a good segue. How long do you think, how many issues do you think it'll take before we finally get Dick back?
Well, he has he almost seems like he does and also doesn't have all his memories back. He's very confused. I think as the emotions memories start coming back, it'll be harder for him to stay Uber Ric. And especially since from the beginning, he's like, oh, my muscle memory says I must fight crime. It's like, so you've been spending all these issues telling us you don't want to have anything to do with crime fighting, and then you crime fight moonlighting. Moonlight is a crime fighter. It's like, sorry, I'm trying very hard to say nice things about this book. I 6 months, because it's only monthly now, right? I think in 6 issues you can have your crap back together, unless they sabotage it on purpose again. Because, like y'all said, they have Dick's memories. Barbara has them on a disc, ready to just squishy back in his head, but he doesn't want that. I think there was even an issue where he said, "I don't want those implanted in me. Leave me alone."
I don't think it's gonna take that. I think, with what was revealed with this issue, something's gonna happen that will allow those memories that the court has locked up to break through that wall that they've built. I just hope we don't have to wait until the latter part of 2020 to get to it, because I might bang my own head against the wall here in my apartment.
Well, just don't hire KGBs to shoot you in the head. And the last question is, do you think B will survive this arc? I think that I don't see B being a long-term love interest. I think she's nice, but compared to Corey and Babs, it's very difficult to see how she might fit long-term into a Nightwing comic. So do you think they'll just have her break up and be friends, or do you think they will do the classic annoying thing and kill her off because tragedy?
What happened to the pregnant girlfriend, or the almost pregnant girlfriend?
They broke up, and they're sort of amicable, but I mean, basically Dick dumped her for Huntress.
So I was kind of thinking about that as I was reading this issue. I'm really bad about reading your notes and the questions beforehand. But I was thinking, Rick's kind of or Dick. Oh gosh, what am I doing? Dick is kind of known as being not a playboy, but he gets around, and not all of the girls die or are never heard from again. So I think there's hope, but she would have to become her own person. Right now, she's just the friend, the bartender, and the girlfriend. She needs to become her own character or person, I think. I don't think they're going to stay together. There's no way they're going to stay together. Dick doesn't stay with a girl forever. It's not going to happen. Unless he marries Barbara, it's not going to happen.
I mean, I would be okay with him marrying Corey, too, at this point. I just am tired of the constant revolving door.
I was thinking, unless it's going to she just ends up being a revolving girlfriend who she was very helpful and nice, not saying anything mean about her. But yeah, unless she becomes her own character, she's just going to be forgotten.
Yeah, I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to get a Bruce Wayne, Julie Madison type of situation where Dick gets his memories back. He remembers Babs, and it's going to conflict him enough to the point where he just has to let her go. I like B as a character, but the writing's on the wall, you know, and you kind of even saw it with their conversation with all of these memories and how they're conflicting. At some point, he's going to realize what he and Barbara have and had.
And I think he's expecting it almost from the conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the end of them as a couple. Now, will she stick around in the comic? That's still possible. But as far as the relationship is concerned, I hope she hasn't made wedding plans.
But do you think she's going to survive, or do you think that we're going to have a tragic dying in Dick's arms as he remembers everything?
Girlfriend.
I would hope not. I mean, we've gotten so much of that throughout the years in comic books. You know, you can end relationships without killing somebody off. You know,
I agree. I just hope that DC editorial thinks so too.
I hope that at this point that there's enough. I feel like some of the storytelling that we get kind of reflects the changing of the times and expectations of stories. Like, not all superheroes are now Caucasian male with black hair. Like, we've moved on from that. And so I hope that the refrigerator girlfriend is a thing of the past.
All right. So on that hopeful note, which I also hope, let's give our ratings. Go ahead, Steph.
There's two ratings, though. There's this is a new character with his own comic that happens to be called Nightwing for some reason rating. And then there's this is Dick Grayson, but it's not Dick Grayson rating. The objective sucks. 2.5. 2.5. Yes, I stand by that.
I give it a 2. Like the story was much better. Again, catching up from the past issues. That art just killed me. The art just killed me. So I have to give it a 2.
Fascinating, because the art actually is pushing this up from a 2.5 to a 3 for me. I'm a big fan of Travis.
No.
So I have to give it a 3. I think it's slightly better than average. We don't have a rating because this is actually a new comic, but we will have a rating on the site when our review is posted, I think on Thursday. So that gives us a 2.5 out of 5 stars as an overall rating for Nightwing number 68. That brings us to an end of our main discussion. So I just want to mention a couple things. We have a new feature on our YouTube channel that we've also been posting on our Twitter called This Week in the Batman Universe Comics, and that tells you what comics are available related to the Batman universe at your local comic store on Wednesday. We're trying to post that Monday or Tuesday. I'm going to try and get it more towards Monday so people can actually use it more. But we've been having a lot of people asking, well, what is being released on the comic shop on Wednesday? And so I've tried to make videos weekly for that, and we'll see how that goes. Let us know if you've got any feedback about that, if you have anything you'd like us to include in those videos. We do have one piece of listener feedback.
Sorry to interrupt, Master Booth. Ringing your phone now.
This needs my attention.
Donovan says, farewell, Dustin. See you again someday, somewhere. The discussion of King's Run and comparing it to the previous mega epic runs was very enjoyable. Personally speaking, I rank King's last under Morrison's, then Snyder's. Granted, I fell off Snyder's run for a long while, but I don't know if I've ever read a Snyder issue I outright disliked. I also don't exactly see with Darker Bruce by him or Rucka that Ian was describing. King's Batman seems much more in line with the internet's idea of Bruce, albeit he's definitely much more open to his emotions, which is good. A lot of times it felt like King was grappling with different sides to Bruce. He didn't have much charisma, and Michael Janin's art always had him making the same brooding face. Maybe it was down to Capullo, but I always felt Snyder's Bruce was a tiny bit more interesting. But Morrison was the artist who knew how to have fun and didn't take Batman so super seriously. I also enjoyed the discussion that began in the last episode relating this Thomas Wayne to the previously known one in Flashpoint. I too had a hard time grokking the point of his plan and appreciated the dissection on it.
Well, Donovan, as a longtime contributor and just great supporter of the Batman universe and pillar of our community, don't worry. We will definitely get Dustin back every now and then. Won't be for a while, but he'll come back and we'll pick his brain for some rants. I clearly need to do a podcast on Greg Rucka's run on Batman at this point because I've been thinking about it a lot, and I know Paul is also thinking about it. So hopefully that'll come in the next few months as well, because I think that Rucka did serious work, and while I think I stand by my analysis of Rucka's Batman as too broken, too dark, it deserves more discussion and analysis than just that sentence.
I will say Rucka's run on Detective with Batwoman was far better than his run with Batman.
I mean, his run with Batwoman is just elevated by that art by J.H. Williams III. It is phenomenal. I'm actually a big fan of Sean Martinborough, who did a lot of art, and Steve Lieber, who did a lot of art for his first Detective Comics run. But I do think that it suffered quite a bit from a lot of different factors. And for me, the biggest one is just the way he characterizes Bruce as unable to get his head together. I agree that Mikel Janin tends to draw Bruce as very expressionless. I think most people tend to draw Bruce as not having a lot of emotional range, though. I would agree that Snyder made Bruce a lot more... he had a lot more life to him, a lot more fizz. But I actually... I've said this before. I don't like it because it doesn't fit with previous Batman. I can see how it might be a more interesting character, but it doesn't connect with who Bruce is and who Batman is to me.
Did he have the crew cut through the whole run, or was that just year 0 year?
I think that was just 0 year.
That was just 0 year.
Was it?
Yeah,
okay.
I wasn't. Of course, I wasn't on the podcast when you all gave rankings. Yeah, but Snyder would be under Morrison first and King second for me. I definitely loved Morrison's run on Batman more than anything, other than perhaps Chuck Dixon and Denny O'Neil and those times. But again, I'm telling my age.
Hey, I love those too. Don't feel ashamed of it. They're great runs.
Yes, Snyder's run for the most part was just so disconnected from what I knew of Batman as a character up until that point. And the idea of Snyder, cramming new characters down our throat that we didn't need, or Snyder, creating new continuity for the universe, particularly 0 year, hated it. It just did not sit well to me. And then if 0 year didn't burn the bridge for me, Super Heavy was probably the nail in the coffin. I like the idea.
Favorite.
I like the idea of Jim in the Jim Bats,
the bunny suit.
Yeah, in the bunny suit with Rookie. But it was that arc could have been 6 issues shorter.
I will completely agree with you on that. It was way too long.
the fact that it took a year to finish that, and I knew the story. You know, they were trying to get the New 52 done so that they get the Rebirth and have 52 issues. But no, God no, it was just entirely too long. And you know, Snyder's not for everybody, and Snyder's run on Batman just did not do it for me at all. So you know, of he, King, and Morrison, he is a distant third, nowhere near to where King is in second place.
All right. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I should just have that as a question for all the hosts, is where you rank the last three, since that was a good discussion we had. So hopefully, Donovan, that responds to your points. I mean, that was a really thoughtful question. I really appreciate you leaving that comment. We could probably do a whole podcast on the stuff you brought up there, but we are mostly focusing on the current comics. Feel free to leave a comment, especially if you want to send us an email at tbu@batmanuniverse.net, or tweet us at tbu_comics. That's where we're going to be doing most of our tweeting for this season. If you are interested in guest hosting or writing reviews or anything, give us a tweet or a DM. If you want to support us, we've got PayPal and Patreon options. And I hope that you will join us next time for episode 2 of Batman Universe Comic Podcast Season 12. This is Ian.
This is Steph.
And this is Theo.
And we'll hear you next time.
Groking? Is groking a word?
It's grokking. It's from Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein.
Oh, okay.